Once upon a time, in a land where soft breezes danced upon glistening ponds, a mother duck awaited the hatching of her eggs. She watched with delight as one by one, the shells cracked open, revealing fluffy ducklings. But there remained one egg, larger and speckled, that sat still and unhatched. Finally, the large egg trembled and cracked, unveiling a peculiar duckling, quite unlike his siblings. He was gray, gangly, and strangely larger. This little creature was not as dainty or as yellow as the others. "Such an odd one you are," the mother duck commented. But she loved all her children equally. Soon, the time came to introduce the ducklings to the other farm animals. As they waddled along, the little peculiar duckling trailed behind, his wobbly gait making the others chuckle. The other ducklings, roosters, and farm cats teased him. "Look at the ugly duckling," they laughed. He was hurt and lonely. "Why am I different?" he wondered, his small heart heavy. Despite the teasing, the duckling tried his best to fit in. He wiggled his tail like the cats, tried to crow like the roosters, and even attempted to swim like his duckling siblings. But he was too awkward, too clumsy. Every time he tried, laughter echoed around him. One day, overcome with sadness, he decided to run away. He plunged into the dark forest, feeling a sense of freedom. He traveled through marshes and streams, braving the biting cold and harsh winds. He was alone, yet he felt a sense of peace in solitude. As winter approached, the landscape changed. The leaves fell and the water froze. The poor duckling had never felt such cold. One morning, he found himself frozen in the water. Just as he began to lose hope, a kind old man discovered him. The man broke the ice, freeing the duckling, and took him home to warm up. The duckling was thankful but longed for freedom. So, one night, he escaped back into the wild. Winter was harsh, but spring eventually arrived. The earth once again donned her vibrant colors, and new life sprang all around. During his journey, the duckling saw a group of magnificent swans swimming in a beautiful lake. Their grace and elegance took his breath away. He sighed, wishing he could be as beautiful as them. Feeling a strange pull, he approached the swans. He bowed his head, expecting the familiar laughter and mocking. But instead, he heard gasps of awe. Confused, he looked into the water and was taken aback by his reflection. He was no longer the ugly duckling, but a handsome swan. His dark gray feathers had turned into a silky, pure white. His clumsy body had transformed into a graceful, elegant figure. The swans welcomed him, and for the first time in his life, he didn't feel odd. He felt right, at home. "I never knew I could be so happy," he said, tears of joy welling in his eyes. From then on, the once ugly duckling, now a beautiful swan, swam in the lake every day, admired by all who saw him. He learned to love himself, even when he was different. For he understood that true beauty takes time to reveal itself, and it comes from within. And so, every time anyone talked about the beautiful swan on the lake, they also told the story of his journey. They spoke about how the ugly duckling turned into a swan, teaching everyone that no matter how you start, the end could always be stunningly different. Many springs passed, and the swan continued to live happily. He swam with grace, his white feathers gleaming in the sunlight. Every time he looked at his reflection in the water, he couldn't help but smile, remembering his journey. One sunny afternoon, a group of ducklings stumbled upon the lake. They were full of energy, splashing about, their yellow feathers bobbing on the water. Watching them, the swan felt a twinge of nostalgia. Suddenly, he noticed a large, gray duckling lingering at the edge of the lake, watching the others with longing in his eyes. The swan felt his heart tug, recognizing the all-too-familiar look. With a gentle glide, he swam towards the little one. "Why aren't you playing with the others?" he asked. I'm too different, too ugly," the young duckling replied, sadness echoing in his voice. The swan looked at him, his gaze soft. "I was once like you, feeling out of place, feeling ugly," he said, a hint of a smile on his beak. "But look at me now. I'm a swan, and I'm beautiful. And so are you, in your own unique way." The little duckling listened in awe, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Really?" he asked. "Really," the swan affirmed. "Remember, it doesn't matter what others think of you. What truly matters is what you think of yourself. One day, you'll understand your worth, just as I did." With renewed hope, the little duckling thanked the swan. He felt warmth spread through him, the words of the swan sinking deep into his heart. He knew then he was just waiting to become the swan he was meant to be. From then on, the swan told his story to every creature who felt lost and different, comforting them with his soothing words. He became a beacon of hope, teaching everyone that being different is not being ugly. Instead, it's a journey towards finding your true self, a journey that brings out the beauty within. And so, the story of the ugly duckling who transformed into a beautiful swan spread far and wide. It brought comfort to all who felt out of place and reminded them that their time to shine would come, just as the sunrise follows the darkest night. And in their dreams, they saw themselves not as ugly ducklings, but as graceful swans, ready to embrace their future with open wings.